What's up, TBS crew? It's your boy Steph back with another reaction. This time we have Unit 522, 3 creepy stories submitted by subscribers based on true events. Number 2. Now I reacted to number 1, which was 4 creepy stories submitted by subscribers based on true events. So I will leave a link to that in the description because I want you guys to check that out and tell me what you think, because those were great stories. Y'all know I fuck with Unit 522, so y'all already know I had to react to this. So yeah, I reacted to the first one. Now this is number 2. So, and it was uploaded May 6, 2019. So down in the description will be a link to Unit 522's channel, a link to this original video so y'all can see it for yourselves without my commentary, a link to the 4 creepy stories submitted by subscribers videos, the stories that I reacted to from him. And also will be links to all of my social medias. Get at your boy and see the person like that I don't upload to YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into it. Man, I know these stories gonna be good. Hopefully, I've never heard these stories before.
I used to work at a fast food restaurant that primarily serves chicken and is closed on Sundays. Its employees are also known for saying, "My pleasure." I'm sure you can guess what restaurant I'm talking about.
Not really.
Most of the time, I really loved my job. At one point, I even wanted to work at the corporate office in Georgia. But there was one incident while I was working there that really unnerved me, and it still freaks me out thinking back on it. At the end of the night, I always had to clean the bathrooms, mop the floors, wash the dustpans, and hang them up along with the brooms. Then I would have to take out the garbage to the dumpster out back. Then I was free to go. So I had finished all my cleaning duties, and all I had left to do was take out the trash. It was around 10:50 p.m. I was really tired and ready to go home. It had been a long work day. I had been there since 2:30, and my boyfriend, who works in the kitchen, said he wanted to grab a bite to eat on the way back home. I told myself to take care of things quickly, so we could get out of there as fast as possible. There were 3 trash bags, so I figured I would take 2 trips. I would take 2 on the first trip, and 1 on the second. This restaurant has a policy where people are supposed to take out the trash in teams of 2, but the managers and myself figured that it wasn't really a big deal. We live in a suburb about 40 miles from Los Angeles. Nothing really happened around here, and it was common for us to take out the trash alone. I walked to the dumpster with the 2 bags. When I got there, I heard a small noise. It was a rustling sound. I stayed quiet, figuring that I would hear the noise again, but all was silent. I tossed the bags in the dumpster, and as I walked away, I thought I heard the noise again. I hoped that it wasn't a rat or something, not that I was afraid of them. But no restaurant wants those things around.
Hell no.
I went back inside and grabbed the last bag. I took it to the dumpster again.
That's how you get
I
shut
then heard
down.
another noise. It was as if someone was rummaging. I threw the bag in the dumpster and decided that I would investigate.
Why?
If it was a rat, then we would have to set traps in the morning. I grabbed my phone from my back pocket and used it as a flashlight. I went around the dumpster to look behind it. What I saw was much, much worse than a rodent. Behind the dumpster was a hooded figure. They appeared to be on their knees, holding what looked like a dead animal carcass.
Oh.
Perhaps a rat or a dead bird.
Oh, hell no.
I could hear a disgusting wet crunching sound coming from the figure. I gasped and jumped back. The figure's head instantly looked towards me. It lowered its meal. And as it did, a piece of animal flesh fell out of its mouth.
Oh, God.
From where I was standing, I couldn't see the person's face, but I could certainly hear their deep, raspy voice as they said, "My, you're so beautiful. I wonder how good you taste."
See?
Without a second thought, I turned around and ran to the restaurant. My boyfriend was at the front counter clocking out for the night. I ran to him and tried to tell him what happened, but I was hysterical and started to cry. My manager came up from the front office, and I eventually told him what happened. The 2 of them ran out and tried to catch the guy, but they were too late. There was no one behind the dumpster area. And unfortunately, there was also no security cameras back there. So there wasn't much we could do, besides call 911 and warn them of a creepy, possibly cracked out homeless man who was running around eating roadkill.
A creepy.
After that incident, the restaurant got very strict about having people go out in teams of 2 to take out the garbage. Even in the daylight, surveillance cameras were also installed. I still worked in the same restaurant some time after that, but ended up leaving for reasons unrelated to this incident. Ever since that night, I'm much more cautious about my surroundings.
I bet.
Especially when I'm by myself.
It be like that. First of all, y'all should have been had cameras. Secondly, they have
My name is Alice.
rules for a
I
reason.
had a terrifying experience with my little sister when I was about 9 or 10 years old. My family and I lived in a small housing community that had 2 schools. My town's junior high school was less than a mile from the edge of the last row of houses. Across the street was the elementary school and a park. This experience happened just outside of the junior high school building. There was a bunch of old concrete slabs that were dumped there to be later disposed of. My sister and I were jumping and playing on these concrete slabs, and our bikes were laid out by some other debris. I noticed a dark green, or maybe black, Saturn coupe. It drove slowly down the street before screeching its tires.
A coupe?
The driver then turned the car in our direction. As soon as I noticed this, even in my young mind, it was really suspicious to me. I made it obvious that I noticed them, hoping that they would just go to the skate park that was down the street. I didn't panic my sister too much just yet, until I saw the car slowly approaching us.
Go.
Now my sister and I are very used to that area, and we play there all the time. We always rode our bikes along that strip of sidewalk in front of the school, and that vehicle was pretty much staying alongside that sidewalk. I started thinking about where we could go to get back home safely, and I told my sister to stop playing and get on her bike. I remember telling her that the vehicle was suspicious, and they may not have good intentions. I knew I couldn't defend my sister from some grown man if it came down to it. We had our bike stolen before, so I kind of thought that's what they were after. As we got back on our bikes,
No.
I saw the car begin to pick up speed as it made its way towards us. I was attending the elementary school that was just up the street, and it was the only place I could think of to go. Since it was obvious at this point that whoever was in the car was definitely after us, my sister and I were pretty fast at riding our bikes, so I told my sister to pedal as fast as she possibly could. We got to the elementary school in the nick of time. The car pulled in after us as we stopped in the middle of the parking lot. My heart almost stopped when I first looked at the parking lot and saw that there was only one car left. It was one of my teachers, and he was packing up his vehicle. This is what I was counting on, that there would be a teacher left on campus or maybe a security guard. The car noticed that there was a teacher behind us, and they drove past slowly with the window rolled down. I remember trying to identify a face, but I only caught a glimpse of the driver's arm as they sped away. I looked at my sister and back at that teacher. I silently thanked him. I knew a way around the back of the elementary school. It led to an apartment area, which we could go through to get home. My sister doesn't remember feeling traumatized after that incident, but I remember lying in bed trying to sleep, so distraught over what happened and how scared I was. I didn't tell my parents until I literally became sick from holding it in. It's never a good idea to bottle these kinds of things up. My mother didn't really seem too concerned over what happened, but let's just say that things were different for my family back in those days. And we'll leave it at that. My lesson learned was to always trust when you feel something isn't right. And if I didn't take that situation seriously, me and my sister probably would have ended up on a milk carton.
Or on a poster.
Just to clarify, I'm a 22-year-old female, but at the time, I was only 14. I was in middle school, and I had made some plans to hang out with some friends at the town's park. It was probably around 5 p.m., but it was such a long time ago that I'm not entirely sure how accurate that is. The town I lived in was very small. You could drive right through it within about a minute, and it was gone. I used to walk around everywhere, to the store, to the school, and to the park. I lived only a couple blocks from there, and I didn't have a cell phone back in those days. I messaged my friends on the computer and told them that I would be heading that way after I fixed my hair. They told me that they would be heading that way as well. I tell my mom that I'm going to hang out with my friends, and was in a hurry as she shouted at me to come home before dark, since I still had homework I had to do. It was bright, sunny, and the weather was nice. I walked a little ways, and right before I got to the park gate, a white truck stopped at a nearby stop sign. The driver was a man in a white shirt and a baseball cap. He looked to be in his late 30s to early 40s.
To catch a predator.
He looked over at me. I give him a small, awkward smile and a little wave.
No.
He smiles back at me and waves before continuing to drive up the road and pulls into the Sonic drive-in that was just up the street.
You shouldn't have did that.
I didn't think much of it at the time.
Of course.
I entered the park alone.
It'd be like that.
Scanning the area, I didn't see my friends, so I found shade under a tree by the swings. It was a couple of feet away from a gazebo. I didn't understand why the park was completely empty.
A gazebo.
Our park was always full of kids and families, but there was nothing. It was quiet and
Too
empty.
quiet.
I waited patiently for my friends to arrive, just daydreaming under the trees. That's when I hear a vehicle pull into the small parking lot. I look up and I see that it's the same white truck from before, and the same man steps out. He's holding a bag of fast food as he makes his way to the gazebo, only a couple of feet away from where I'm at.
Gazebo.
And the entire time he's staring me down. It was the kind of stare that made your skin crawl.
It's an interesting word.
Unblinking and relenting. I had an immediate gut feeling that something was wrong.
Hell yeah.
And my skin began to itch.
I bet.
He didn't take his eyes off me for a second.
I bet he didn't.
Not even when he was tearing into his meal. I spent a while fiddling with my bracelets and praying to God that my friends would arrive soon. I looked over at him again. He nodded and then motioned for me to come over. He did this repeatedly. I shook my head and tried to keep my eyes off him, but I was starting to become scared.
I bet.
Thinking that he may come over to me. I kept glancing over at him, and every time I did, I was met with the same unrelenting stare. 20 minutes had passed since he arrived, and my friends were nowhere in sight. I began to get this feeling that they weren't coming. I was alone in a park with a creepy man who was much taller, bigger, and stronger than me.
You need to leave.
These thoughts flooded my brain. And that's when I noticed that we weren't alone. There was a girl with long brown hair sitting by the slides. She was a couple of feet from my left. She looked only a bit older than me. She called me over, and I felt a lot safer coming up to her than I did that creep sitting over by the gazebo.
Gazebo.
As I approached her, she asked me if that man sitting over by the gazebo was my dad. I couldn't contain my fear any longer, and started frantically explaining to her that the man was not my dad, and that he was really creeping me out. I could sense that she felt a bad vibe from the situation, just as a bystander, seeing the way the man was looking at me, as if I was a piece of meat. I told her that I was only 14, and that I was supposed to meet some friends at the park.
To
but
him,
they
you
didn't
are.
show. I then mentioned to her that the man had motioned for me to come over to him several times. She told me that she had just got off work and was waiting for a ride from a friend who lived pretty far away. She had been watching us both for some time, feeling that something was off. I thanked her for calling out to me and was relieved to have someone with me. She sat there with me and kept an eye on the man. We made casual conversation about school and other stuff. This went on for about 15 minutes. All the while, the both of us kept constantly checking to see if the man was still there. He was, and was still staring daggers at me. He wasn't eating anymore. He was just sitting there and staring. I was so uncomfortable, shifting my position every time I noticed him. My face was hot, and I was feeling sick to my stomach. I glanced over again to see him motion once more for me to come over. I could see his eyes light up, and his smile becoming wide. The girl gets irritated by this. I watched her stand up quickly and stop down the steps and walks over to the gazebo. From where I was on the slides, I could see them talking loudly back and forth. I was able to make out the guy saying, "That little bitch led me on." He repeated this over and over again.
What?
Saying that I was some kind of slut that led him on. Saying that he never would have tried to get me over to him if he had known that I was a kid. I was a tiny thing. There's no way that anyone would have mistaken me for an adult. She came back and told me that I should head home
Yeah.
and she would keep an eye on him as I left the park. And since I lived pretty close, I would have to make the trip home fast, so he wouldn't see what street I lived on.
Yeah.
I bolted out of the park as fast as I could. As I did, I could hear a vehicle's engine rev up. I saw the white truck peeling out of the parking lot and turn onto the same street that I was on. At that point, I knew the man was following me. I saw the truck begin to pick up speed. That's when I ran between the two houses just off to my left. I then hid behind some thick bushes. I got low so I could still see what was happening in the street. The truck stopped in front of the alleyway, and I could see the man sticking his head out of the window, presumably looking for me. I then heard a female voice yell, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" The man shouted back, "Hey, I told you to mind your own business. If I ever see you or that little bitch again, you're dead. You hear me?
Damn.
You're dead." The man revved up his engine and drove off. I ran home as fast as I could. When I got through the door, tears began to burn my eyes, and I broke down sobbing. I told my family what happened. We all went back up to the park sometime later, but the man and the truck were gone. A couple of days later, I found out my cousin went to work at the same drive-in that the man had been at. She heard a crazy story from her coworker about how they had saved a little girl's life from a pedophile at the park. Like I said, our town was really small. I found out her name was Cheyenne, and to this day I'm so grateful that she was there to protect me. She was my guardian angel that day. I don't know what would have happened to me if she had not been there, and the thought of me being stuffed into that guy's truck keeps me awake at night.
Oh, man.
There's always a reason to be afraid.
Man. Yo. Oh, shit. Yeah, these stories were great. You almost got. Real talk. You almost got fucked up. It sounds like the guy in the third story was hungry and thirsty for a lot more than just Sonic. I tried to hit him with a Chris Hansen To Catch a Predator type line. Nah, sweetie. Yeah, he wanted your cheeks. Bad. He wanted to give you a standing ovation. But no, all jokes aside, fuck all pedophiles, fuck all rapists. You deserve nothing but the worst that this world has to offer. Pieces of scum like you. I don't know what it is about the word gazebo, but it's funny to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because E40 says it funny. He says it like gazebo. Like, y'all know how he talk and how he rap. He just says it funny. I think he said it in Real Game for a Player. If I remember in the album correctly, though. I think. Yeah. I don't know what album it is, but yeah, that shit was funny. But no, little girl in the last story should have ran when she had the chance. Yeah, you sitting there waiting for your friends. Had that girl not been there to save your ass, he would have got your ass. Because it sounds like you would not have left until you really found out if your friends were coming or not. And I don't know what friends those are, but you might need to get some new ones, because they ain't even hit you up and say, hey, plans change, or we can't come, or we're going to be late. They ain't let you know shit. So you waiting for them almost got you fucked up. Nah, man. Negative. Alright, y'all. What story did you guys like the best? What did you think of my reaction? Leave all your feedback down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed my reaction, leave a like, a comment, and share the video. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel and tap that bell icon so you will get notified every time your boy Steph drop new content, which I do 7 times a week. That is all I have for y'all this time around. Your boy Steph is out.